Imagine this. You're walking alone on a deserted country road, the kind where the trees loom over you, their twisted branches reaching like skeletal fingers toward the sky. The moonlight barely breaks through the canopy above, casting long, creeping shadows. In the distance you hear it, a low hum, almost like a whisper, but not quite. It's the sound of something coming closer, something that shouldn't be there. They call it the Phantom Horseman. Those who see him are never the same. It's said he gallops silently in the dark, chasing down anyone foolish enough to walk alone at night. His eyes burn red, and his horse's hooves make no sound as they strike the ground. Once you hear the hooves behind you, it's already too late. Or picture this, an old, forgotten graveyard deep in the woods where the headstones are so weathered you can barely make out the names. They say if you stand there long enough, you'll hear the earth shifting as if something is clawing its way out. Some say it's the Black Woods Witch, a woman who was accused of witchcraft centuries ago and buried alive in these woods. On quiet nights, people swear they've seen her. A gaunt, hollow figure, her skin clinging to bone, eyes glowing like embers in the darkness, forever seeking revenge on those who wronged her. These are just two of the many legends that haunt the dark corners of Canada. Stories that send shivers down your spine, not just because of what they are, but because of what they represent. The unknown, the unexplained, the things that linger just out of sight. So, put on your headphones, wrap yourself in a blanket, and turn off the lights. We're diving into some of the most terrifying urban legends Canada has to offer. And who knows, you might find yourself looking over your shoulder before the night is through. The legend of the Phantom Horseman is as old as the roads that crisscross Canada's countryside. It's said that this spectral rider roams the rural areas of Nova Scotia, forever searching for something or someone that was taken from him long ago. In 1910, a man named Thomas Burrell was riding home late one night after visiting a friend's farm. The moon was full, casting an eerie glow over the empty road. As he rode through a dense patch of forest, the temperature suddenly dropped, his horse's breath clouding in the air in front of him. That's when he heard it, the sound of hooves behind him. At first, he thought nothing of it, maybe another traveler out late. But as the sound grew closer, he realized something was wrong. He kicked his horse into a faster pace, but the hooves behind him sped up as well, closing the distance. His heart raced, his hands trembling on the reins. He glanced back, but saw nothing. No rider, no horse, just the dark road stretching behind him. Then, without warning, his horse reared up, nearly throwing him to the ground. In the chaos, Thomas caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of his eye. A figure on horseback, tall and dark, its eyes burning like coals in the night. The rider's face was hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat, but there was something about him, something that wasn't human. Thomas urged his horse forward, riding as fast as he could, but the Phantom Horseman stayed with him, its silent hooves pounding the ground. Finally, as he broke free of the trees and reached the edge of his village, the sound stopped. The rider was gone. But Thomas was never the same. He told the villagers what he had seen, but no one believed him, until a year later, another traveler disappeared on the same road, their body never found, but hoof prints scattered across the dirt. As the years passed, the road became a place people avoided after sunset. Whispers of the Phantom Horseman growing louder with each new disappearance. Though the villagers never found the missing travelers, the hoofprints remained, a silent reminder that some roads should never be traveled alone. And for those who dare, the rider is always waiting. Hidden deep within the forests of British Columbia lies a small, forgotten graveyard, untouched by time and overgrown with vines. Legend has it that in the 1700s, a woman named Eliza Blackwood was accused of witchcraft by the townspeople of a nearby settlement. She was blamed for everything that went wrong, the crops failing, livestock dying, even strange dark shapes that people claimed to see in the forest at night. Fear took hold of the town, and Eliza was dragged from her home, tortured and buried alive in an unmarked grave in the woods. For years, her name was whispered only in fear, but as time passed, the story faded into legend. The settlement eventually disappeared, but the woods remained. And those who wander too far into them tell tales of strange occurrences, trees that move on their own, shadows that follow you, and a woman's voice, soft and pleading, drifting through the air. One night, in the fall of 1963, a group of teenagers decided to explore the old graveyard. They had heard the stories of the Black Woods Witch, but didn't believe a word of it. Armed with flashlights and a sense of adventure, they made their way into the forest, laughing and joking about the ghost stories they had been told. As they entered the graveyard, the laughter stopped. The air was thick with silence, the kind that makes you feel like you're not alone. One of the boys, Jason, began reading the names on the headstones, most of them worn smooth by time. That's when he noticed something. One grave, set apart from the others, unmarked but freshly disturbed. The dirt looked as if it had been recently dug up, despite the fact that the cemetery had been abandoned for over 100 years. Before anyone could react, they heard it. A faint scratching sound, like nails scraping against wood, coming from beneath the earth. Jason stepped back, his flashlight flickering. The scratching grew louder, more frantic. Then, from the darkness behind the trees, came a figure. She was tall and thin, her skin pale and stretched tight over her bones, her eyes glowing red in the light of the flashlight. The group ran, their screams echoing through the forest, but Jason tripped and fell. When he looked back, the figure was gone, but the unmarked grave was no longer disturbed. The others dragged him to his feet, and they ran all the way back to town, vowing never to speak of what they had seen. But Jason never forgot. To this day, he swears he can still hear the scratching sound in his dreams, and every fall, when the air grows cold, he feels the witch's eyes watching him from the shadows. Canada is filled with stories like these, terrifying tales that make the hairs on the back of your neck stand on end. Some say they're just legends, stories passed down through generations. But the people who've lived through them, those who've seen the phantom horseman or heard the scratching in the woods, they know the truth. So, are you ready to hear more? If you're feeling brave, stay with us, because we've only scratched the surface of Canada's most horrifying legends. What comes next might make you think twice before you head out into the night.